We'll do it like that. If agriculture goes wrong, nothing else will have a chance to go right. These are the words of Mankombu Sambasivan Swaminathan, who's an Indian agronomist and global leader of the Green Revolution. And I think it's a perfect summary for what we are looking to over the next day and a half. My name is Magda Kopczynska. I'm Deputy Director General for DG Agriculture and Rural Development, and I have the immense pleasure to spend this afternoon with all of you. All of you in this room, where we are getting to 350 people, I think, at this moment, and I like how you're taking over the seats at the back of the room, and people who are also following us online, because this event, this part of the conference, is broadcast and available on Commission websites and different social media. Commissioner, ministers, honorable speakers, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for this third AgriResearch conference. After a longer break, but yes, we are here in one room, face to face, and I know we all appreciate it. What we would like to do over the next day and a half would be looking at the changing context in which our farmers, foresters, and rural communities have to evolve within, to share experience about the existing RNI solutions, including lots of best practices that you will be learning about throughout the day, to identify what else needs to be done and addressed as part of the RNI activities in Europe, but also globally, and finally look at the tools and skills that farmers, foresters, people involved in agriculture will need to be prepared for this evolving context. We have a very tight agenda. Apologies for a couple of minutes delay, but before I hand over to our first speaker, let me do a bit of a reminder and share with you some technical issues, but not only technical issues that you need to know to really appreciate the day-to-day. First and foremost, phones into silent mode. I hope I don't have to remind that to anybody. Second thing, we will want you to participate and be active in different ways, asking questions, but also using Slido. I know by now everybody knows how Slido works, but in a second you will have a slide, and here, go to slido.com, #AgriResearch, and you will have the first polling question there, which is a test question to see how well we are doing with using Slido. So the first polling question should come on the screen in a second. And with this first polling question, we'd like you to tell us who you are. Well, we know who you are because we registered you for the conference, but not all of you know who else is in the room. So tell us, are you a researcher? Are you a farmer? Are you a policymaker? Are you a student? Are you a person fascinated by agriculture? Answer the poll. You have 60 seconds to do it, and in the meantime, I'll be giving you all those technical background and info that you should know. Slido, I said. Access to Wi-Fi, I hope by now you know because you're doing the Slido poll. I did mention that we will be live, and we are live streamed. I hope you will share your impressions and thoughts of the conference through the social media, including Twitter. There will be a coffee break, normally planned for 1600, for 4 p.m. this afternoon, but as I said, we are just a tad behind the schedule, so I will need to rely on the goodwill and discipline of all the speakers to make sure that we make it safely to 4 o'clock, but we'll see how it goes. And for those brave among us who will stay in the room until the end, we will enjoy evening cocktail to really talk about what has been happening throughout the day and to prepare for the next day of the conference, which is tomorrow. And last but not least, I almost forgot, we have a special treat for you. We know that nowadays we all live in this world of digital things, digital pictures, ChatGPT, and you name it. But today we will have drawings. We have Sven Retore, who is sitting at the back of the room, and he's creating his impressions of the day and a half. And every now and then during this afternoon, I will ask him to share with us how he has seen the discussions in the room. There you go. And that's a message from Sven. Sven, thank you so much for being so interactive with us. So now, as I said, even though we are a bit behind schedule, I am very happy that I can welcome on stage Commissioner for Agriculture and Rural Development, Janusz Wojciechowski. Commissioner, the stage is yours. And when you come on stage, we should see the results of the Slido poll so that you will know with whom we are dealing in the conference today. Can I ask for the Slido poll to come up? There you go. So we are split between researchers and policymakers. Commissioner, that's your audience, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, dear Minister Kullgren, Minister Planas, Chairman Lins, Director Jansen, my fellow speakers, distinguished guests. It's my great pleasure to welcome you all here in 2023 EU AgriResearch Conference. This year's conference comes at a pivotal moment. We are almost halfway through 2023. The year is still being shaped and defined. So far, we could define 2023 as a year of challenges. Russia continues its illegal aggression against Ukraine, contributing to rising production costs and growing concerns on food security. In recent weeks, we have seen droughts across Europe and floods in Italy. Here I would like to share my deep sympathy and solidarity with those affected. These extreme weather events reinforce that our farmers, foresters, and rural communities are in the front line of climate change, and we need to stand with them now more than ever. We need to lend our support to help them become more productive, competitive, resilient, and sustainable. We need to provide access to the right knowledge and innovations, and to help them seize opportunities to this European Year of Skills. We need to ensure that 2023 is not defined as a year of challenges, but as a year of action. Let me highlight the European Commission is setting out to lead this action by investing substantively, by creating synergies, and by working strategically. First of all, between 2021 and 2027, we have allocated approximately €9 billion for our Horizon Europe budget to agriculture, research, and innovation. This is almost double the allocation of the last programming period. I believe this is exceptional considering the global trend of decreased public investments in agriculture, research, and innovation. Thanks to this investment, farmers already have some truly groundbreaking, innovative solutions at hand. For example, an EU-funded project has recently developed a new technology to produce a low-cost, low-carbon fertilizer using a mixture of air, manure, and electricity. I invite you to look at our Horizon result packs to discover more exciting and promising solutions. However, to maximize investments in knowledge, we need to invest with wisdom. We are therefore working to create synergies. We are creating synergies through partnership with bring together European Union member states and associated countries, as well as the private sector, foundations, and other stakeholders. On a global level, we are building alliances to learn from each other and address our challenges together. For instance, we are about to launch a new global initiative to advance cooperation in research and innovation for the conservation and sequestration of soil carbon. Through global and European partnership like this, we are pooling our resources to create an ocean of funding opportunities that will accelerate agroecology, improve animal health and welfare, and unlock the potential of data in agriculture. We are also creating synergy through Horizon Europe. We have introduced new advisory networks to enable exchanges between advisors across the EU. We are developing an EU-wide knowledge reservoir on one-stop shop for farmers, foresters, and advisors to access practical knowledge and solutions. Finally, we are creating synergy between our different policies. For instance, our research policy is now programmed and implemented within the Common Agriculture Policy with clear and positive impacts for farmers, researchers, and citizens. Through their national strategic plans, each member state supports an integrated agricultural knowledge and innovation system which brings together all actors to share and apply practical knowledge. The Common Agriculture Policy also enables farmers and rural communities to engage with scientists and researchers through the European Innovation Partnership for Agriculture Productivity and Sustainability. With CAP support, member states plan to establish around 6,600 operational groups throughout Europe in the next 5 years, more than twice the number of the last period. This is a good example of the long-term strategic approach we are taking to agricultural research and innovation. At the center of this approach are farmers, foresters, and rural communities. We do not simply undertake scientific research for them, but also with them. We have invested billions of euros across hundreds of multi-actor projects, testing solutions on the ground and farms, fields, and forests. This approach is at the heart of the soil deal for Europe. Our research and innovation mission to improve soil health. Since 2021, we have directed 300 million euro towards the objectives of our mission, and by 2030, we aim to establish a network of 100 living labs and lighthouses to develop solutions for healthy soils in real-life conditions. We are also developing a harmonized framework for soil monitoring in Europe and raising public awareness about the vulnerability and vital importance of soil. Member States are actively promoting the mission by stepping up activities to enhance soil monitoring and protection. Already more than 200 activities have been reported in addition to all action at European Union level. Furthermore, many EU countries are making an explicit reference to the soil mission in their CAP strategic plans. They are helping their farmers to conserve their soils in a variety of ways, for instance, through the development of carbon farming, which can deliver win-win benefits for soil, health, climate action, and farmers' incomes. This is a good example of how we can and must combine environmental concerns and economic considerations. If we are to transform our climate ambitions into concrete achievements, a holistic path is our best hope. Ladies and gentlemen, this conference is a true opportunity to have your say, to define our action and to shape the path we take. As I said at the beginning, we are at a pivotal moment and we face a number of challenges. Climate change and biodiversity decline, providing sufficient food for growing global populations, and securing the viability of family farms across the world. In the end, the task of meeting these challenges will defeat us or define us. The choice is ours. If we choose to deny incompatibility, leave the work to others, and focus on the fears of uncertainties of the future, then we will meet the failure. But if we choose to take responsibility for our actions, to listen, share ideas, and work together, and to drive the possibilities of knowledge, innovation, and skills towards the potential of the future, then I firmly believe we shall find a path to success. On that note, I thank you for your time and attention, and I wish you a full and fruitful conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. And I think this is really indeed the task ahead of us, to define the future in such a way that we are not defeated. What I'm going to say now, it's not really a defeat, but an adjustment. At this moment in time, I wanted to recommend that you all be checking our website, because there's a program and biographical notes of all the speakers. But at this moment, I will ask you not to check the website, because I'm hereby introducing the first change in the program. The next speaker that will address you will not be Roger Schulte, and I will explain in a second why, but will be Minister Peter Kullgren, Minister for Rural Affairs of Sweden. And the reason why he will speak now is that, as you know, Sweden is holding EU presidency, and one of the features of presidency is that you're not a master of your agenda always as much as you'd like to be. I think, Minister, it's a correct wording. And because you need to rush to 3 different debates in the European Parliament, the floor is now yours to tell us how has the presidency been for the past 5 months and what's ahead for the remaining months. Minister?
Thank you very much, Mr. Commissioner, Mr. Minister, ladies and gentlemen. As the current presidency of the Council, I would like to start off with some reflections on the last 5 months, which could be summed up as both intensive and instructive. To begin with, it's not a surprise to anyone that the potential of the agriculture and forestry sectors and how they can contribute to sustainable transition is high on our agenda. In this vein, we had the goal to adopt Council conclusions on bioeconomy during our presidency. And after some work, redrafting, and with valuable input from both Member States and the Commission, we adopt Council conclusion in April. These conclusions have a clear connection to the topic of today's conference: agriculture research and innovation. Speeding up the development of sustainable and circular bioeconomy is important for dealing with many of today's challenges. It contributes to tackling climate change by providing renewable alternatives to fossil resources, to ensuring food and energy security, to create jobs and contributes to development in rural areas. We have seen progress in development of bioeconomy across Europe, not least in the field of research and innovation. The Council conclusions highlights that research, innovation, and investments are key factors of the transition towards sustainable and circular bioeconomy in the European Union. And more can be done in order for the bioeconomy to reach its full potential. For instance, we must further promote the uptake of innovative tools and technologies and make them available for all farmers. It is important that we focus on this goal in our focus and create a policy environment that stimulates the use of new technology and that doesn't create an administrative burden. And we must remember that small and medium-sized actors often have very limited funds for research, innovation, and the development of new products. There is also a need to bring research and innovation advancement closer to the market and ensure that bio-based products are competitive. I look forward to an updated bioeconomy strategy and to keep the bioeconomy high on the European Union's agenda. Moving on, I would like to say a few words about the EU's policy objectives in agriculture and whether we are on the right track to reach them. In general, I think we are on track and that necessary instruments are there, even if the CAP has many challenges to deal with. Through the latest CAP reform, we have changed the policy to be more focused on reaching the different objectives and goals set out for agriculture. At the same time, there should be flexibility for the member states to choose and adopt measures that are most efficient for the specific situation in the national context. Considering the theme of the conference, I would like to say that we are on track to reach our goals when it comes to research and innovation. The Horizon program, for example, with opportunities to distribute, co-create and implement results with CAP practices is good base for realizing and developing policies in our sector. In a world that faces global challenges like climate change and insecurity from pandemics or conflicts, political decisions often face hard trade-offs in complex settings. Hence, there is a need for scientific evidence and demonstrated impact from applied research and innovations. This helps in the final political decisions to shape and apply policy. And therefore, it is important that research projects consider all dimensions of sustainability for the transition, not only impact on environment or economy, but also social impact. To sum it up, adaptation and transition will need more research and innovation, but also spreading of knowledge and demonstration of its use in agriculture products and services. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Minister Kullgren, and we've kept our promise that you will be allowed to leave in time to make it for the Parliament. Fingers crossed for the last month of the Spanish presidency. Swedish presidency, I knew I'd make that mistake at some point. Apologies for that. I'll get to the Spanish presidency later. Now you can go back to the agenda as published and as planned, and I'm handing over to Professor Dr. Roger Schulte, who, as you all know, leads the Farming Systems Ecology Group at the Wageningen University and Research. And I've been explicitly forbidden to say anything more, and even to give you the slightest hint of what he will be talking about. I actually don't know what he will be talking about. So, Roger, the floor and the surprise is yours.
Good afternoon. Well, the program says that I'll be giving a short inspirational speech about the future of agriculture. And I find myself stood here in front of the brightest minds across Europe. And I find myself thinking, I don't know. Maybe I should know. I do teach on the subject. And if you'd asked me this question 5 years ago at the last conference, I probably would have given you a straight answer. something based on efficiency or novel crop varieties that are disease resistant or agroecology or lab-grown foods. But the world has utterly changed since then. So the future of agriculture, for me, is a blank canvas. In the last 5 years, we've seen that climate change used to be something that we saw in our models, in our model output, something that was about to happen, something that would happen. 5 years on, it's here. It's all around us, everywhere, all the time. Food has been weaponized by the war in Ukraine, as has energy, and with it, the price of fertilizer, which is felt by farmers worldwide. And finally, we've seen supply chain disruptions at a scale never seen before. Now, I love this photograph because, of course, it shows that big disruption in the Suez Canal, but it shows something else. It shows the size of our solutions compared to the magnitude of the challenge that we're facing. Because the world is a different place. Disruption is the new normal. Resilience is the new efficiency. Resilience to biotic shocks like pandemics or diseases, abiotic shocks like climate change, economic shocks. And these new challenges call for new solutions because our current solutions were not made to deal with challenges of this scale. So what is the future of farming? I don't know. But I do know who our future farmers will be. Let me introduce you to two of them. This is Simone and her mother. And Simone grew up on a small 40-head dairy cow herd in the Netherlands. And her mother was winding down the farm after her father passed away at an early age. Now, Simone and her two sisters had no interest in farming, and they went off to college to study something else. But then when Simone finished her studies, she came back to her mother one day, sat her down and said, "Mum, I think I can do this. I think I can be a farmer." Now, Simone knew what way the wind was blowing, and she decided she would go down the path of sustainability. She sowed clover. She introduced a lighter breed of cows into the herd. She looked into going to organic. But Simone did so in a very uncertain environment. The biggest dairy processor in the country was no longer taking new organic suppliers because their plant was full to capacity. Simone is waiting for the government to announce their new nitrogen plants, which she's been waiting for 4 years. That will determine the future of what she can and cannot do. All she knows is that there's a little bit of a nature reserve next to her farm, but she has no idea what that will mean for her farm. And finally, Simone told me that sadly, in the year 2023, she still struggles to be taken seriously as a woman farmer in a man's world. The second farmer I'd like to introduce to you is Howard and Cloudy. Now, Howard is a new entrant. Howard spent 20 years in the army. And when he reached the age of 40, he decided it was time to repurpose his life. And he went to college to study sustainable farming. And when he finished, he said, "Now I want to farm." Now I want to farm? Where are you going to get the money from, Howard? Not from your army salary. So Howard teamed up with a foundation, a national foundation that buys land around the country that becomes available and rents it out specifically to new entrants that want to farm sustainably. Howard is a new entrant. Two very different farmers, successional farming, new entrants that will be looking after our landscapes in 2040 and providing our food. They couldn't be more different. But they also have things in common. Because what they have in common is that they want to farm sustainably. They don't need to be told what sustainability is. They don't need to be told why they should be sustainable. But both of them rely on others to help them do that. They cannot do this on their own. And that is part of the problem. Too often I hear people say, if only farmers would do A, B, and C, it would all be solved. If only farmers would know the externalities of their production systems, they would make better informed decisions. They would want to be more sustainable. We even have companies coming to us saying, we want all our farmers to be regenerative in 2 years' time. And we've made this flyer for them with 8 bullet points, with practices that they should implement. What do you think? And I say, what do I think? I don't think farmers are waiting for a flyer. Because farmers, the farmers I know, are not short of information. The farmers I know are overwhelmed with signals and information from society, from salespeople, from regulations, from subsidies, from debates on the radio, from social media. And each time we leave it to the farmers to make sense out of all that and come up with production systems that work now and work into the future. And they are trying. Every day, 10 million farmers around the EU are trying to reinvent their farming system to be ready for those challenges. And when 10 million then some are bound to succeed. Some of them come up with new farming systems, new permutations, that somehow they manage to jump out of the constraints that their neighbors find themselves in and come up with new innovations that we haven't thought about, but that work for them. Now, we sent a team around the world in search of those pockets of future farmers, if you like. They're already farming, they've redefined at least one dimension of sustainability so that they're ready for the challenges of 2050. And we went in search of those pockets of the future. And we brought them together in what we call the global network of lighthouse farms. And we call them lighthouse farms because they are like beacons that illuminate pathways for others to follow. And I say pathways, not pathway, plural. Because there's large-scale farms, small-scale farms, family farms, technological solutions, ecological solutions for different soils, different climates, different cultures, different diets. Now, amidst all that diversity of success, we can then research what are the ingredients that they share in common. What are the ingredients to success that makes a lighthouse farm and makes a lighthouse farmer? But it also allows us to research why is it so difficult for their neighbors? Why is not everyone doing this? What are the obstacles, the policy obstacles, the societal obstacles, the financial obstacles that stand in the way of so many other farmers? And what can we learn from those in terms of helping them implement change? Which moves me to the topic of today, because that type of co-innovation, if you like, needs a model that goes beyond the traditional pipeline of research, extension, and farmer practice. What we're looking for is co-learning and co-innovation in these lighthouse farms and living labs. So a living lab is the farmers plus all the other actors that surround them, the policymakers, the supply industry, the processing industry, the citizens, together to come up with solutions that are rooted in farm practice, proven to work on the farm, that are held to the highest academic standards and scrutiny, and at the same time are relevant for local conditions and local contexts. Not copy-paste, but locally adapted. Now, of course, this fits in very nicely with the EU mission on a soil deal for Europe. And that mission is one of the missions of the EU to address the grand challenges. And of course, it's modeled on the moon mission that the Americans put out in the 60s, where they said, we want to put a person on the moon in 10 years' time. How can we do that? How can we mobilize everything to do that? Make no mistake, the soil mission ambition is even bolder and more complex than putting a person on the moon. But we too can use that how can we attitude. Because in my experience, it's a magic sentence. Instead of saying farmers should cut back on ABC, we can say, how can we enable farmers to produce more with less? Instead of saying that's greenwashing, we can say, how can we make sure that our initiative stands up to scrutiny? Instead of saying scrap the CAP, we can say, how can we make the CAP deliver on the Green Deal objectives? And that, I invite all of us to use that sentence throughout this conference, because it allows us to be critical of ourselves, of each other, which as scientists we need to do, but at the same time, with a sense of shared ownership. Because we face this challenge together. At the end of the day, it is Simone and Howard who have to deliver on it. But they depend on us, on the brightest minds in Europe, to help them pursue their dreams, to provide us with our food and the countryside in 2040. And therefore, I finish by inviting all of us to reverse the question throughout this conference. Let's not ask what Howard and Simone can do to meet our objectives. Let's ask ourselves, what can I do? What can each of us do to help Simone and Howard deliver on their dreams? And with that, the organizers have introduced a second Slido slide where they would like all of us to reflect on that question. What can I do to facilitate the farmers of the future? How can R&I best help farmers, foresters, and communities? So I invite you all for a moment of personal reflection. Thank you very much for your attention and wish you every success in the conference.
Wow. If any of you would like to re-watch that presentation, this thing is recorded. You will be able to come back to it, so don't stop Roger during coffee break and don't tell him to go through his slides once again. I have to make one comment. You referred to the Man on the Moon mission. There is also this other famous quote from John F. Kennedy, who's saying, we are doing that not because it's easy, but because it's hard. And I think that's another quote that perfectly well illustrates today. Now, when I was explaining to Minister Planas that there will be a change in order, he said, but I definitely want to speak after Roger because he will inspire me. So now, Minister Planas, the oncoming Spanish presidency starting on 1st of July and Roger presentation before, and we look forward how you have been inspired by that to tell us what the Spanish presidency will do for agriculture and in agriculture and with agriculture in the second half of 2023. The floor is yours, Minister.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for your kind invitation for the European Commission and from Commissioner Wojciechowski with all you today here. And in the presence of the President of the Committee, Agriculture Committee of the European Parliament, my good friend Norbert Linz, Roger Schulte, that have given us an inspirational speech with many of the topics that we are talking during this conference and can we say the human touch of all the things that we are doing and we have to do for the next future, and all of you for attending this conference. Many thanks for that. Spain will hold the presidency of the European Union from the next 1st of July. And I want to highlight some of our ambitions, our objectives in the area of agriculture. The first one is to boost and promote technologies within the agri-food sector. The second, to ensure food security, food safety, health, and environmental protection. The third, to highlight the role of the CAP and the rural areas. And the fourth, to raise visibility of the rural areas, promoting conclusions on the long-term vision of rural areas in the European Union. Research, innovation, and new technologies are key to progress to a sustainable agri-food system and a thriving and dynamic rural environment, the one that we have just seen a moment ago. But I am not only referring to new information and communication technology or digitalization, but also to new genomic techniques, which offer very precise and controlled genetic editing possibilities. For example, to develop varieties that are more resistant to drought or disease, or with better yields. We expect the European Commission to present its legislative proposal on these new genomic techniques in July, and we will try to reach a political agreement in the Council during the Spanish presidency. This is a crucial issue for the future of our agri-food systems. It is therefore important that the legislation be as balanced as possible and clearly differentiated from the one that has been applied for classical MGOs. Research and innovation help us to produce food more efficiently, consuming fewer resources, water, fertilizers, phytosanitary products, animal feed, energy, others, develop innovative products with greater added value, improve the quality of life in our towns, animal welfare and the protection of the biodiversity, but also to reduce food waste, take advantage of the benefits of the circular economy, or cooperate with other countries providing technology and knowledge to improve food security and global sustainability. The promotion of new technologies will help EU to keep up to date in all technological fields. We cannot be left behind while other players such as the USA or China are growing in these areas. For this reason, the informal Council of Ministers of Agriculture to be held from September the 3rd to September the 5th in Córdoba, Spain, will address the topic new technologies as a tool for a more climate resilient agriculture. We need to develop knowledge, innovation, and technology to adapt our agriculture to climate change, not only to mitigate it, but to adapt to the consequences that are already here. In addition, we need to reduce our dependence on imports in face of the unstable political scenario. Invasion of Ukraine is a good example, but without losing sight of the opportunities and open strategic autonomy of the EU. The EU's political agenda is ambitious, in line with the environmental emergency situation at global scale and demands of the society. The transition requires effort, but above all, the right tools and the necessary knowledge. The green transition is necessary and urgent. It's not an ideological issue. Moreover, it offers many benefits to society in terms of health, resource savings, employment opportunity, and others. But we must act right, with balance, prioritizing the most effective actions and in collaboration with all the sectors, so that is a just transition. There is a need for a better connection between the scientific advances and what the farms and companies really need. And that is exactly what EAP Agri promotes. In Spain, we have supported many 600 innovative projects of the European innovation groups, which place us among the first European countries. And in this period, 23-27, we have reinforced the budget and we will allocate 168 million euros to these open, circular and interactive innovation projects which boost agricultural productivity and sustainability. Of course, these innovation cooperation actions are complemented by powerful EU instruments such as the Horizon Europe and others, We have to develop too what is the connectivity, the digital connectivity. Spain is the third country of the EU in this sense, but we want to have the 100% coverage by 2025. We have to continue to promote training digital skills and support of new technologies. And in the framework of the new strategic plan of the CAP, we have to have a greater effort for training, advice, innovation, and digitalization, and also for generational renewal, as it was just said, and the incorporation of young women, young farmers to the scene. We are taking, I think, very precise initiatives, but these initiatives have also to reach small and medium farms that need more to be invested or to receive training. Thanks to the Next Generation EU funds, we are supporting investments in precision agriculture, modernization of greenhouses, facilities to improve the management of manure, or to take advantage of biogas and biomass. So is the largest investment that is being done to achieve a more modern and sustainable irrigation system that will be needed for the immediate future. Also, the new farm information system, we simplify the management for farmers, allowing them to reuse the available information in this business management and to generate, not only to use and to generate a large amount of data that are necessary to contribute the value of all the effort that are generated by all. All these benefits of innovation will be reciprocal and fair. This is why Spain continues to support a more efficient, a more sustainable, and a climate-resilient agri-food production systems. This is a necessary transformation to ensure food security with a rational use of our natural resources, and research and innovation are essential to achieve this. I hope that this conference and the discussion that we had during the conference today and tomorrow will help to that. Good luck, good chance for all the work that can be done here. And I hope that during the Spanish presidency, we will continue with the Commission, with Parliament, and with all of you, the work that will be done today in Brussels. Many thanks.
Thank you very much, Minister Planas, and of course, good luck to the Spanish presidency. We'll be looking forward to hearing from the Spanish presidency during the Agri Outlook conference, which will take place in the second week of December, another date that you may note at the back of your heads. Now, Minister Planas takes one of the chairs there, because I haven't lost the hope that at the end of this part, I will be able to ask one additional question to the remaining speakers, but we are sort of behind the schedule a little bit, but let's see how it goes. Now, you've heard from the Commissioner, you've heard from the two ministers. No European policy can happen only by the Commission and the Member States. We need the European Parliament, and I'm very happy that we have Norbert Lins, who's the chair of the Agriculture Committee of the European Parliament, with us. Chairman Lins, the floor is yours. We are almost 1 year before next European Parliament elections. Again, I don't know what you will be talking about, but maybe somewhere between now and the future, you'll tell us what you think about the needs of RNI and agriculture in the European Union. The floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much, dear Minister Planas, dear participants, dear ladies and gentlemen. What an inspiring presentation from your side, Professor Schulte. I was remembering when we had to do our decision on our own farm. I grew up on a dairy farm, and we had to do this decision for the next generation as well on our own farms. Dear ladies and gentlemen, I'm convinced that if we want to tackle these current and future challenges, research, development, and innovation can be the key in helping us transform it into a future-oriented agriculture. However, in order to encourage a successful transformation, we have to be smart and consider all the relevant variables that are affecting the process. I believe that the European Union has demonstrated a strong commitment to supporting RDI across a range of sectors, including agriculture and forestry in the past. However, there is a growing recognition among policymakers that additional support is needed to ensure that these efforts are reaching rural actors, particularly farmers and foresters. We have a number of initiatives and policies that aim to support rural development and help adapt to the changing environment in a sustainable manner. This include, for example, and it was mentioned several times by the other speakers, for example, the Common Agriculture Policy, the European Innovation Partnership for Agriculture Productivity and Sustainability, the EIP Agri, and the Horizon 2020 program, which funds research and innovation projects across a range of sectors. And I am convinced that the new CAP was a first step in the right directions. Despite some critics that say the opposite, I believe that the new Common Agriculture Policy is into a more environmentally friendly policy. But if we want to go beyond, we have always to ask the question of financing. And that applies for all the programs. We cannot always ask more when giving less at the same time. Thus, I think we could have more money when it comes to the new challenges. There is an insufficient funding via the Common Agriculture Policy or the Horizon Europe program. But I also acknowledge that it is difficult to go above the current levels. And I think that it depends on what we are talking about. I think that applied research is a cruising speed, but several points need to be looked at. We need to do more for digital transformation and use what is currently available, like, for example, the European Union Agency for the Space Program. Precision agriculture was mentioned by Luis Planas as well. That needs boosting. New techniques have to be supported. I'm aiming at the new genomic techniques here. So I hope to be very open and honest that there will be a proposal from the Commission coming out at July at the latest. It's needed before the summer break, and I appreciate very much, Luis, your time schedule to find a political agreement within your presidency on this, and I hope that we in the European Parliament then can be as fast as possible there. But it's not only the new breeding techniques. I think most importantly, there is still a necessity to make RDI more accessible at the farmers' level. There still seems to be a huge possibility to communicate and implement these projects where needed. Our advisory systems via the CAP could be a helpful tool here, but that must include the willingness of all actors in the field. That means a greater collaboration between researchers, policymakers, and industry stakeholders with the farmers is necessary, in my opinion. I thank you very much. So I am faster than expected. Thank you very much, and I am happy to discuss with you.
Thank you so much. That's a rare situation that a speech is shorter than envisaged, because you may not know, but all the speakers have a timer in front of them, and at some point it starts blinking red, and some of them follow the red and some of them don't follow the red, but there we are. Thank you so much, and thank you also for a list of topics that will be actually handled tomorrow in the breakout sessions, because a lot of the things that you said, including new genomic techniques, the question of advisory services and others, will be discussed in smaller groups, so I hope we'll be ready to continue the dialogue with European Parliament. There's one thing that I forget to say already for the second time, and I will not forget now. The Slido that Roger launched, don't be mistaken, it's running in the background. So if you haven't voted, if you didn't point to the RNI topics that you believe are the most important, go back to Slido, vote, and we'll see the results after the last speaker, Director Marion Janssen, Director for Trade and Agriculture Directorate in OECD. Last but not least, the floor is yours so that we hear more about things that maybe not necessarily just so much EU focused, but going a bit beyond. But again, anything you want to share with us on research and innovation, best practices, OECD countries, you have 7 minutes and it will be blinking at you after 5.
Thank you very much, Magda, for this introduction. I have been informed about many things, but not about the blinking lights, so I will try to adjust to this. I will start, Magda, with one of your points, but not without saying that I'm, of course, as the Director for Trade and Agriculture at the OECD, very pleased to be here with you today and to be here with this very distinguished panel. Magda, you said we are not here to do things that are easy, but to do things that are hard. We call these hard things the triple challenge of food systems. Why triple challenge? Because we are expecting from food systems that they will provide food for a growing world population. So we need to produce more. We are expecting from food systems that this is done in an increasingly environmentally sustainable way. These are two challenges. But what is the third challenge? The third challenge is that we have to think of the Simone and the Harrods, because these two farmers, but also all the other stakeholders along the food system, supply chains, they have to be able to make a living from their activity. 3 challenges that need to be met by food systems. Now, I don't know how it's for you, Mr. Planas, how it's for the other policymakers in the room, but in my job, I do not only hear that farmers are expected to do a lot, I also tend to hear, oh, agriculture is not doing enough. Agriculture is not sustainable enough. Agriculture is just polluting all over the place. People tend to forget that we are producing food. And my answer when I hear this is to say, tell me one sector that has to contribute to 2 sustainable development goals, to 2 goals that are defined by the United Nations that we have to meet by 2030, the Zero Hunger goal and the climate change goals. The agricultural sector has to meet both. We have assessed at the OECD that in order to do this, productivity would need to grow by 28% in the next decade. That's 3 times the productivity growth we have seen in the past decade. We consider that it's nearly impossible to increase productivity as much, but we nevertheless bring out this number in order to show this is what you all are expecting the agricultural sector to do if that sector is meant to meet 2 sustainable development goals. Research and innovation is, of course, necessary in order to meet this triple challenge and definitely this 20% increase that I just mentioned. At the OECD last November, 50 ministers and vice ministers met, and I'm very pleased that Mr. Planas was there too, to discuss these challenges of the agricultural sector. They agreed on a declaration on transformative solutions for sustainable agriculture and food systems, and they committed to 3 things: to increase investment in research and development and infrastructure, to second, enhance research collaboration and knowledge sharing, and to third, invest in research, innovation and extension services that can facilitate sustainable productivity growth and offer climate change mitigation and adaptation solutions. So, Roger, to answer your question, What do we at the OECD do? What can we do to help our members to meet these 3 commitments that they made and to help Simone and Harold? We are only an international organization that works at the international level. I must admit, we are not frequently in touch with the farmers themselves. But why do we think we can nevertheless be helpful? We run a research program that is called the Cooperative Research Program that allowed researchers, and I saw that some of them are in the room, to conduct research abroad or to organize international research conferences. We think that this is useful because it helps innovation to spread across the globe as rapidly as possible. That's what we need to meet the 28% challenge. What else do? We help governments to track how much they are spending and what they are spending on. Now, the EU, we have already heard it, spends quite a lot on research and development. They spend above the OECD average. But in the countries that we track overall, we have seen the percentage of spending on research and innovation, infrastructure, skills, the things that we want, going down in the past 20 years. More and more money is spent on things that do not drive things in the right direction. We help governments to assess this. And last but not least, we help governments to assess whether they are going in the right direction, not only on productivity, but also on environmental indicators. Because only then can they show that their policies have been helpful and that they have helped the Simones and the Harolds to meet the objectives that their country has set itself. Now, a lot needs to be done, and this lot that needs to be done will trigger a lot of changes. And the amount of changes that we will have to face will unfortunately lead to another triple challenge. We like triple challenges at the OECD. When policymakers try to introduce change, they will realize that there are different stakeholders and that stakeholders do not agree on what needs to be done and what the effect will be of what is going to be done. We have found it useful at the OECD to distinguish 3 types of differences in opinion. Stakeholders tend to disagree sometimes about evidence. There's not always agreement on data, but that is something that can be addressed, notably by the researchers here in the room. Stakeholders have different interests. By change, some stakeholders lose, others gain. That's where policymakers can help. By supporting those who lose and help them to not lose that much or to end up in a zero game. Monetary interests can be addressed by policymakers. What is more difficult to address is difference in views and difference in values. And the agricultural sector is a sector where values do play an important role. It's a sector where farmers like Simone and Harold work closely to the earth, work closely with animals, with plants, with life, and values cannot be taken out of that sector. Here we consider that working closely with stakeholders, with all the stakeholders, in a very constructive and organized way will be important to overcome not only the differences in evidence, not only the differences in interest, but also those in values that exist within your countries, but also across countries, including across our membership. We look forward to continue these discussions with you, Roger, with the panel, with the audience, and to work together towards meeting all the challenges that we are facing. Thank you.
Okay, so now is the difficult moment because we are completely out of time. We should have been finishing now, but I will not let you off the stage that easily. I will scrap all the tricky questions that I have drafted for myself that I will ask the panel. But what I was thinking I would do, and just let me get back to that. So we have this Slido running in the background, and there is this question: how can RNI best help farmers, foresters, and rural communities? And I know you had no time to do Slido because you were speaking. Before we see the result, I will ask you to tell us what you think is the most important RNI element that should be taken into consideration, in particular by the Commission, by European setup, but also internationally, to help farmers. And after you have given your answers, we'll check how close you are to what the room has responded. Any volunteers? You will use the mics, yeah.
I would make it very simple. I think there is a need for more money. And
Excuse me,
yeah.
can we stop? Can we stop the Slido now so that nobody is influenced by the answers that come from stage?
Yeah. So I will use this element as the most important one. I think that there are much more, but more money is needed for research and innovation.
For everybody in the room, this is always a good message from the European Parliament that we need more money. Because we in the Commission note it down very carefully, and then we come back to Chairman Linz and say, you promised it in the conference. Minister.
My point is just because we are well connected, I think, is the following one. We need the money for the research, and we need a transfer for the farmers. I mentioned in my speech, small and medium farmers need a lot of advice. That means budgetary support, but that means also that they think that society is in their back and supporting what they are doing. That's very important. Is can we say, the human touch of everything. And this is a very important element to be related to the one that Norbert has just mentioned.
Thank you, Director Janssen.
I would like to add the element of implementation. The research and innovation should from the beginning be thought as something that can be implemented in the field by the farmers, by the actors. So not research for research, but research that can then be also transmitted into the actual activity.
Thank you. We cannot generate money in this event. We can engage with everybody here to think of those new research topics that are done with the people, and we definitely have human dimension in mind when we launch this conference. So now any further comments? So let's see what the audience said to the Slido question. You will see it on the screen in front of you, the results of the second Slido poll. Coming? No? Yes, no? Now I'm in the hands of the people who run the techniques of the conference. Because I know that the results are somewhere there. You need to let me know if it's coming up. I have it in front of my... No. Ah, there you go. So where is money?
Soft element, yeah, but an important.
Share knowledge is there. I think a comment on money. Everybody knows European Parliament is in the room, so we will have the money. That's why nobody mentions money. But thank you so much. And as you all have seen, it would be really good to keep the speakers on stage and have them engage with us, because there was also this idea that I open the floor to you, but I'm absolutely forbidden to do it because I have the next panel that is already 5 minutes late. But thank you so much for having joined us and for everything that we have heard from you so far. We'll take careful note of that for the next day and a half and for future as well. Thank you. Okay, so